There are a total of 8 new crystal tiers in the Elden Ring DLC, and some of these are actually really cool, but yeah, we're going to be ranking all of them from worst to best based on how well they perform and how useful they are in a PvE setting. But yeah, as always, not going to go over any locations due to spoilers, and also don't forget to subscribe, we have a lot more ranking videos coming along the way. Starting off at the bottom, the Crimson Sapping Cracked tier. This actually does give you the ability to convert damage into health, but unfortunately it's only 0.75% of your health back for every single hit, and it only lasts 45 seconds, which is just abysmal. It doesn't work with spells, it doesn't work with power stancing combos, that still only counts as one hit. Now it does work with like these multi-hitting types of Ashes of War, so you can pair it alongside the Prelate's Charge type of build and get a bunch more health back. But at that point, I'd rather just use like the health regenning tier because that lasts 3 minutes and doesn't have to involve you hitting an enemy. But I actually did some testing. Let's just say you actually swing a one-handed straight sword and just do nothing but R1 spam for 45 seconds straight. Say you have infinite stamina as well, which honestly the straight sword R1s are pretty fast, and it still only heals you for 40% of your health bar. After 45 seconds of just nothing but R1 spamming, only 40%. Like you only benefit off this tier once you've taken damage as well. And at that point, you might as well just use the Crimson Crystal tier. This like literally heals half of your health instantly. Or just use any other tier that's actually useful. Number 7, the Viridian Hidden tier. This actually does eliminate all stamina consumption, but it only lasts 15 seconds. So yeah, for like 15 seconds, you're not going to be losing any stamina. They obviously took inspiration from the Cerulean Hidden tier that eliminates all FP consumption for about the same length, but that one's actually useful because spells can be very expensive and very hard hitting, and with certain types of spell combinations, it could be very useful. Whereas for stamina, it's going to take you like 5 seconds to drain your stamina bar already, but like stamina just regens quickly by itself anyway, so what's the point of having like only 15 seconds of infinite stamina? There might be like a very specific and niche use out there for a particular boss, but like this thing should at least last 40 seconds. And you might be thinking, okay, well like its obvious use is going to be paired alongside shields because you can just block and just never lose any types of stamina, but it doesn't even work with shields. It literally just goes straight through. Number 6, the Crimson Burst Dryad tier. This actually does give HP regen to the allies that are nearby you for 3 minutes, but it's only 7 HP per second, which might be useful if you are doing like co-op and to sit close to the summon that's actually carrying you, and you can just give them constant HP regen. It honestly would have been a lot nicer if it was like boosted damage negation instead, but the reason why HP regen is not going to be as valuable because with Spirit Ashes, it basically heals them for nothing. It should be like percentage based health regen because certain Spirit Ashes have so much health, especially when they're upgraded to max, and it's just not even noticeable. You just don't even see them gain any amounts of health with this thing. Hopefully it does get changed to where it is percentage based or like just boosted damage negation. That would be pretty cool, especially if you're a summon trying to help out a host that has like 30 vigor. Give him a bit more help, that'd be nice. Number 5, Cerulean Sapping Cracked tier. This actually does give you FP for every single time that you actually hit an enemy. Now for every single hit, it actually does give you 5 FP back and it lasts 45 seconds, which is actually very decent. You can kind of treat this as like a better Cerulean Hidden tier. Now yes, it's not going to work with spells, and it also isn't going to work with power stancing combos. It's still only going to count as one hit, but it's going to perform really well with one, cheap weapon skills, certain skills that consume like less than 10 FP. This is basically going to be like an infinite FP bar. And there's also certain skills out there that is hit multiple times very quickly. You could just use this at the beginning of the boss fight, and you won't even have to use a single blue flask for like the next 45 seconds, at the very least. Now obviously it's still going to be situational, only going to be good with certain types of weapons and skill combinations, and it is only going to give you FP back. In almost every instance, I'd rather just go into like just damage-based crystal tiers, but it is still going to be pretty good. Number 4, the Oil Soaked tier. Now for 45 seconds, your character does get oiled up and nearby enemies will also get oiled up, but you do have to be really close to them. You can't really be like a few feet away. Your body basically has to be pressed up against the enemy to oil them up. But the benefit of this is that it makes enemies take 20% more fire damage, which is obviously really good. Now unfortunately, once you do hit them with a fire source, it is actually going to remove the oil effect. But if you are constantly staying next to an enemy, it is going to always reproc over and over again. So that means you can just like stand right next to an enemy with Catch Flame and just keep spamming it, and it might result in 20% more damage. Now the reason I say might is because when the oil effect does get removed, it takes a little bit for it to come back again, and Catch Flame is like really fast, and there'll be times where you actually hit with a Catch Flame when they're not oiled up. I actually did some testing. I spammed like 10 Catch Flames in a row, and instead of doing the 20% more damage, it only ended up doing about 15% more damage. So do keep that in mind. Also with the Blasphemous Blade as well, if you're using it at point blank range. If you hit with the weapon, it's going to remove the oil effect, and then the projectile is not going to be getting that 20% boost. But also to keep in mind is that you're also oiled up, so you're going to be taking 20% more fire damage. So it's obviously going to be situational. You want to use it against enemies that are weaker to fire damage, that don't deal fire damage. Like as you see in the gameplay right here, I actually have Malenia oiled up. I just hit her from the back a couple of times with my fire-based hammer, and then she just gets overwhelmed. Now the fact that it does last 45 seconds is also going to turn me off a little bit, because if you are going to go with a faith type of build and you have like less than 60 faith, you're probably better off going with the faith tier alongside the fire tier. Because I actually did some testing with a 50 faith character and the oil tier compared to a 50 faith character using the faith tier. It wasn't really that big of a difference. The oil tier was making it do more damage, but the faith tier lasts 3 minutes and it doesn't involve you having to be close to an enemy. But if you are running like an 80 faith character, the faith tier is not going to benefit, of which in that instance you probably can use the oil tier. But it obviously is still going to be situational. An oiled up Radagon is going to be much better than an oiled up Moog. Number 3, the Glovewort Crystal tier. This actually does boost the damage of spirit summons by 20%, and it does last 3 minutes, which is very good. That is basically going to last the entire boss fight more times than not. And don't worry, you don't have to be standing next to your spirit summon just for them to get buffed, and you can also just use it at any point. You can use the tier before or after they get summoned and they will still get buffed. And yes, it's going to be 20% more damage, which is great. So if you're a person that relies on spirit summons, this is obviously just going to be a must-have. Spirit Ashes can make a lot of encounters just really easy. It can help take the aggro away from you, of which you can just go ahead and just whack the boss with your overpowered stuff. And honestly, certain types of Spirit Ashes just do amazing damage and are very tanky. So yeah, this is going to be very useful. Number 2, the Blood-Sucking Cracked tier. This actually does give you 20% more damage for 3 minutes, but it does drain 1% HP for every second. So if you have played the other Souls games, it is going to be like Power Within, but just in a crystal tier format, and it lasts 3 minutes. Now obviously the fact that it's taking 1% health every second, you're going to have to heal a couple of times, otherwise it will kill you. But 20% damage is quite literally the biggest buff that you actually can get out of a crystal tier, and this is just going to stack with everything. So if you just wanted to maximize your damage, you just put this on for any single type of build. Now, if you were trying to learn a boss's moveset, this might not be the option for you because you probably end up getting killed by it, but you can pair it alongside some health regen types of things, or better yet, just put on the Blasphemous Blade and just heal through the entire thing. Like, yeah, the Blasphemous Blade just keeps getting better. There's like so many additions to the DLC that just made this weapon even better than what it was beforehand. But best of all yet, this is just bonus damage to every single source. Weapons, spells, Ashes of War, doesn't matter what it is, just flat 20% damage for 3 minutes. So yep, the Blasphemous Blade is still the best weapon. Number 1, the Deflecting Hard tier, and in my opinion, the best addition in the entire DLC. This thing is so incredibly fun, but basically how it works is that for 5 minutes, you gain the ability to deflect enemies, and after a successful deflection, you gain 40, 60, or 80% more damage to your guard counters. You get an increase in damage every single time you deflect. With every successful deflect, it just keeps stacking up and up, all the way up to ×3, which is going to be 80% more damage. Now, if you do miss a deflect, if you take damage after a little bit of time, if you just swing normally, this will actually end up resetting. But as long as you keep deflecting, which is actually very easy to do, and you can like deflect things like AoEs and crazy ass explosions as well. The shit's actually kind of insane. Now, if you don't know what a deflect is, it's essentially a perfect block. If you just block at roughly the same time you're getting hit, it'll end up resulting in a deflection. It doesn't have to be like frame perfect. It's actually pretty forgiving. You end up taking like no damage, a lot less stamina damage, like 90% less stamina cost. And if you do a guard counter follow-up, it's just going to be doing 40% more damage. And you can pair this alongside the curved sword talisman, the two-handed talisman, and you can go ahead and block with any random weapon, not take any damage, and just get amazing guard counter potential. Now, there are going to be instances of which you do take a little bit of damage. It doesn't seem to block all types of elemental damage sometimes. There's actually a sound indicator that you do get a perfect guard, but it isn't really that loud. I kind of wish that it's increased the volume of that a little bit, or probably give it like a better visual indicator too. But yeah, you can quite literally just like spam the L1 button, kind of like in Sekiro, and you'll just end up taking like so much less damage and not really take up much stamina as well. It has such a high skill ceiling that it makes every single boss fight just so much more fun in my opinion. Like deflecting is such peak combat because it kind of removes like the whole glorified turn-based combat and that you have to wait for an enemy to finish, then you attack, then you wait for an enemy to finish. It kind of feels like you can like attack in between their combos. And with certain types of weapons that get some very good hyper armor and amazing stance damage, it can make for a very deadly combo. Anyway, that is the video now done. It was going to be a shorter one, there's only 8, but some of these are really cool, so I'm glad that they do exist. But in terms of the next video, we kind of have done everything we've needed to do in terms of ranking things, except for the weapons. Now, I don't really want to rank all 100 new weapons from worst to best, because by the time I play with them all extensively, then make the ranking video, knowing my luck, they'll probably end up being like a balancing update that just ruins the entire thing. So I'm just going to categorize them. I'll probably just rank the boss weapons, rank all the unique skills. I know I definitely want to make more top 5 best build videos too. And also if you guys do want, I can make a top 10 or top 25 best weapons list. Just let me know down in the comments what you guys really want. But please do like and subscribe because there is going to be lots of content coming along the way. Anyway, catch you guys around. Bye.